Here we are, at the beginning. Scary place. A dark, uncertain, scary place. What will happen to us? Will something be asked of us? Why did we come here? Was it out of curiosity? On obligation, maybe, or some strange urge? Was it out of force or inner hope? Were we hoping to enjoy ourselves, perhaps? Where shall we begin? Begin at the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was formless and void, and dark was hovering over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. No. God comes early, but before God, before the beginning, before the word, before the number, before the chapter, before the separation, before the unity, before the incoherence, before the narrator, before the narrative, before the story, before all motivation to explain, before he, she, and us, before I am that I am, before I will be what I will be, when nothing was, what was? That, what we call ultimate purpose, destiny, principle, nature, is something inner. As true as it might be, it is not wholly real. Purposes, principles exist in thoughts, in inner intentions, but not yet in reality. What is a possibility, a capability. It has not emerged from its own inner into existence. A second momentum is required for reality, and that is activity, realization. And its principle is the will, the action. An action? Out of nothingness? From the blankness, the void, the utter formlessness and emptiness? Yes. It is here that the situation is excellent. From small beginnings come great things. Listen closely. Moments before the explosion, the universe was very small. It had the shape of a small rock, a small fist. It was pressed. The whole universe, as big as it is now, maybe endless, it once had this kind of a shape, compressed and twisted. Around us, there is nothing. There is not even time or space. Imagine the darkest, emptiest thing you can, and cube it a gazillion times. And that is where we are, where nothing was, in the hovering, haunting swell of acuity. And then suddenly, bang, a universe appears. An entire universe. And we have crossed our first threshold. This universe is tiny. It's smaller than an atom and it's incredibly hot. It's light. It's an eruption of light. And it contains everything that is in today's universe. So it's busting and it's expanding at an incredible speed. At first, it's just a blur. But very quickly, distinct things begin to appear in that blur. Within the very first second, energy itself shatters into distinct forces, electromagnetism and gravity. And energy does something else quite magical. It congeals to form matter, quarks, that will create protons and leptons that include electrons. And all of that happens within the very first second. But where did that fist come from? Why did it explode? Using my own mind, can I ever understand the mind of the universe? Does it even make sense to think of the universe as having a mind? that what we call all testing, all confirmation or disconfirmation of a hypothesis takes place already within a system. And this system is not a more or less arbitrary or doubtful point of departure for all our arguments. No, it belongs to the essence of what we call an argument. This system is not so much a point of departure as it is the element in which our arguments have their life. So, arguing from my own point of view, I can know the universe. In knowing the knowledge and goal of the universe, the individual's goal to be reached is the mind's insight into what knowing is. Impatience asks for the impossible, wants to reach the goal without the means of getting there. But the length of the journey has to be borne with, for every moment is necessary. The universal mind at work in the world, the Weltgeist, has had the patience to go through its forms in the long stretch of time's extent and to take upon itself the prodigious labour of the world's history, where it bodied forth in each form the entire content of itself. Because by nothing less could that all-pervading mind ever become conscious of what itself is. And for that reason, the individual mind cannot expect by less toil to grasp what its own substance contains. I contain the universe. The universe contains me, but if each form bodies forth the entire content of itself, then I body forth, I contain the universe, do I not? And so it is. In each of us, and everywhere around us, we find nothing but the content of the universe. And this comes so. After the birth of the universe, the stars came forward. Now, stars don't live forever. They have a birth, they have a middle life, and they have a death. A star, if it is large enough, will go through a process of developing in its core all of the elements. A star starts off as hydrogen and helium. Then it creates carbon in its core. Then it creates phosphorus. Then it creates oxygen. All of these are being built up over billions of years. And finally it gets to iron. Iron itself cannot burn. The star is then no longer able to hold back the gravitational collapse, and in a very short moment, an entire star collapses down to a point, in just over a second. So these high-mass stars exploded, scattered and dispersed their enriched contents across the galaxies, sprinkled into gas clouds that collapsed again and formed into new stars and planets and life. So the molecules that we have in our bodies are traceable to a phenomenon in the cosmos. It is literally true that we are stardust. The iron that we find in our blood, the iron that we find in meteorites, they have common origins in the core of a star. We are born from the death of a star. To die is to become. The star's end is my beginning, but why must a star die for me to live? The bud must disappear as the blossom bursts forth. and one could say that the former is refuted by the latter. In the same way, the fruit declares the blossom to be a false existence of the plant. These forms do not only differ, they displace each other because they are incompatible. Their fluid nature, however, makes them at the same time elements of an organic unity in which they not only do not conflict, but in which each one is as necessary as the other. And it is only this equal necessity that constitutes the life of the whole. So, am I the fruit? As the exploding star is the blossom? And the compressed fist is the twisted bud about to explode? If this is so, what then is the tree that brought forth the bud? In such a chain, each part is caused by that which preceded it, and causes that which succeeds it. Where then is the problem? But the whole, you say, wants a cause. Look at the grammar. One of the troubles is that we take a substantive to correspond to a thing. The words cause, beginning, have been used as though they have stood for a thing. What is the beginning is a misleading question. I ought to be content with this answer. I ask, what was the answer? I didn't understand. The sense of the world must lie outside of the world. In it, everything is as it is. Everything happens as it does happen. In it, no value exists. Feeling the world as a limited whole, it is this that is mystical. We feel that even if all possible scientific questions have been answered, the problems of life remain completely untouched. Of course, there are then no questions left. And that itself is the answer. The solution to the problem of life can be seen in the vanishing of the problem. But is there not a contradiction to say that the sense of the world must lie outside of the world? Because if I contain the universe, and the universe contains the world, where can such an outside exist?
A rabbi is holding court in a village. Moshe comes to the rabbi and says, "Rabbi, every day Itzhak runs his sheep across my land and it's ruining my crops. It's not fair, it's my land." The rabbi looks at Moshe and says, "Yes, you're right." The next day Itzhak comes to the rabbi and says, "But Rabbi, bringing my sheep across his land is the only way that they can drink water from the pond. Without it, they would die. For centuries, every shepherd has had the right of way on the land surrounding the pond. I should too." The rabbi looks at Itzhak and says, "Yes, you're right." Then the cleaning lady comes to the rabbi and says, "But Rabbi, they cannot both be right." The rabbi looks at the cleaning lady and says, "You're right."
Okay, well, let's just suppose that I have understood, because indeed I have not. But let us just suppose that I have understood the highest. Now, is it not so that almost at the same moment something new must rush upon me? That the highest of all is not to understand the highest, but to act on it. Because as we have said, a second momentum is required for reality to come into existence. And this is activity, realization. And its principle is the will, the action. Now, I might try to understand my life backwards, but I will in any case have to live it forwards. So then what is it that prompts my actions? No, because to act in its most general sense means to take initiative, to begin to set something in motion. Where does this initiative come from? Am I free in this decision? We do not so much possess freedom as we, or rather our coming into the world, is equated with the appearance of freedom in the universe. We are free because we are a beginning. It is in the nature of beginning that something new is started. And so intrinsic to our capacity for action is the introduction of genuine novelty, the unexpected, the unanticipated, the unpredictable into the world. The new always happens against the overwhelming odds of statistical laws and their probabilities. The new, therefore, always appears in the guise of a miracle. A miracle of destructive force, then, is it not? Because the new, we said, must kill the old. Revolutionaries do not make revolutions. Armed uprising has never yet led to revolutions. A revolutionary process is not a rash nor a gradual progress. It is a repetitive movement, a movement of repeating the beginning again and again. Okay, but if I were to want to create such a miracle, a genuine novelty, a revolution, well, I would have to repeat that violent explosion, would I not? Or would I have to repeat the before? The dark unknown, the hovering, haunting swell of nothingness. This very real world of ours, with all its suns and galaxies, is nothing. All things return eternally, and so do we with them. We have been here countless of times, and all things with us. There is a great year of becoming, a monster of a great year, which must, like an hourglass, turn itself over perpetually to drain and expire anew, so that all these years equal themselves in the largest as in the smallest, so that we ourselves in each big year equal ourselves in the largest as in the smallest. And were you to want to die now, we know what you would tell yourself. Now I die and dwindle, you would say. And in an instant, I am nothing. But the knot of causes in which I am tied up will create me afresh. I myself am part of the cause of the eternal return. I will return with this sun, with this earth, with this eagle, with this snake. Not to a new or a better or a similar life, but to the same and equal life, to die again. All great thoughts and all great deeds have a ridiculous beginning. And so far your doubts have not made any sense at all. Whoa. Is this the end? This is not a satisfactory end. This is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning.